So go ahead, Hipreme. Show us what you got.
Okay, basically, I'm gonna first say why I have started with this build selector tool. Um, it was basically created because Steven was trying my engine and it was very complex to get the build running, so I thought it was really bad, the UX, and then I thought about like new users trying my engine. I thought, oh my god, this is gonna be a catastrophe. So I have done a tool for basically getting the D programming language with my target version stuff. It set up everything you need for getting the the engine running in almost any platform right now. I haven't implemented the support for PS Vita because there I don't think anyone is gonna use that right now, so it's not a priority thing. So here it asking some permission to get 7-zip because the the compiler is distributed via 7-zip for Windows, so it needs that. uh, I really would like to get some progress bar here, but I think it's good enough for now too. And here you can see that it is using the environment variable. This is something that I have done from the beginning, but I don't think I'm gonna keep this up because I have took another approach from that. It's quite a lot easier to just store here my variables for everything, so I'm not using almost anything from environment now. The environment I'm using now is basically set up from the script itself, so there's no external dependency. Um, this including variables like having Git installed in your PC or even the decompiler. Um, Here I'm asking for the game path. I have done some refactor today on this. This is missing right now, but here I can get the path which is located in the projects folder. Um, Remembering that if you don't have a Git installed in your PC, the engine, not the engine, but the selector gonna install local Git and clone the engine to folder next to it. And here I just set the project here, and then we got the some options here. I have integrated today some option for creating a project. This using another project I have called Hyper. Um, it's basically basic GUI stuff for getting some your initial project here. So I can try new project 3. Was just like testing, and then it backs here, and after that I'm still trying to integrate the select game with create a project because it would make a lot of sense. And here it will list everything which is in the projects folder, and I'm gonna select the new project tree. And for the Windows stuff here, I have noticed while testing in a VM stuff that the programming language actually requires the VC runtime. So I have used standard Windows registry here. I think I can get here. And I have done a thing for installing the VC runtime if it's not found in the PC. And it's quite simple. It's like this function for checking its existence. And for installing is basically using standard net curl and you passing some specific flags to the VC redist program, which are those flags here. They work pretty nice. It's better than using the Microsoft GUI stuff. And you'll see that this will basically, when you select an option, it won't use the environment decompiler. It's gonna take this game build stuff here, which has Phobos lib path, which is taking so this is really specific for the Apple OS stuff, since in compiling it as a static library with Xcode imports. So this is unused for both Windows and Linux. But if you don't have any compiler installed right now on your PC, it's gonna take the LDC stuff, which it's pretty bad right now because it should take the DMD thing first. I actually checked for DMD first because there's no external Objective-C support. Here you can see that we get the LDC path, which was just installed by the game script here. You can see I saved the build tools here. You can get some other stuff depending on the platform you're trying to build. I tend to not save every configuration for every platform here because it's unnecessary and it's just easier to do like that. Here you can see it saves the decompiler here. There's nothing fancy. It's just installed from GitHub directly. And this script is always like trying to execute everything from this thing here. I thought it's a lot better than using a Docker, especially because I don't know how to use a Docker. And this is a project we just generated here from this stuff. I have tested to the thing about you can change the game you're working with. So you can see we got the start here now. It's even listing here. We can try building for Windows again. And it should just build the main thing. And you can see that it changed the game really easily. This including to the other game I have been showing like a lot of times, which is the Match 3 game. You can see that the game script itself builds really fastly, but I think the problem is a little bit of the engine, but I don't think it's a real problem because an engine user should not be modifying it in any way. So I think it's pretty okay for now for those features I'm searching for. And I think for Windows, it's just like that. But of course, I don't show every platform here. For Windows, you can see I filter for versions here, so you don't build for the other because cross-compiling is just a pain, so there's no point in doing this too. And here I'll show you right now the WebAssembly thing. You can see that the first thing I do is updating the Git submodules because as it is distributed from, I distribute the druntime as a Git submodule, it should always update it. It doesn't take much time. I think the thing here is installed because I have selected something. It's pretty strange. And here I'm executing a bunch of scripts that I have required for doing WebAssembly development. You can see there's this release game stuff, which is pretty dumb right now. It basically copies your game to a folder Duby is expecting. I plan to do some kind of placeholder in this folder, and then you will be able to execute this script without copying it to the folder. It only takes the source paths and the assets right now. I should take like the entire dub.json as a dependency so you can take other dependencies from the copy resources is a very special script in this thing because of course it only copy resources. It also checks for caches on your system. And when you're building for the Xbox Series, it also appends to your Visual Studio project, and you will be able to see all the assets from the Visual Studio project itself. There is also this Gendir. It creates a file here, which is located in build Wellsman here. Generated dictor is just JSON. You can see I basically generate a JSON containing all the files and folders here in a JSON level stuff, I think, for the formatter. Yeah. And you can see this number I save is basically how many bytes are those archives. So you can query this stuff. It's pretty lightweight, so I thought why not save this kind of metadata. I think it can be like really nice in the future to get this stuff. And this is about it for the WebAssembly. I basically import this at compilation time. This is the G program for executing the development server. And you can see what it actually does on the build selector stuff. Oh, was it browser? Oh, I think there's so many modules here. Here you can see, basically for building for WebAssembly, we have a bunch of deflags required. When you're using dub, it will always append from the environment the deflags. And this is how I'm using to build for the WebAssembly right now. So as we have these deflags, every project built with dub will append those deflags to your target system. So the most important here is basically the D runtime as we're showing here, and the standard library. I haven't implemented the entire library because it's really big. The approach. Oh my god, how much? Okay. So I haven't implemented all the standard library here. The approach I have took for HipremeEngine was implementing my own standard library, which I'm trying to use at everything, which is on the utils thing here module. And you can see there's plenty of things here that, how can I say? It basically tries to reflect what the standard library have been doing. We have the util time here, the algorithm, which also imports the standard algorithm, but with more other things here. The format, which I'm kind of not using it like very much because it's usually very heavy, allocates a lot of memory, so I don't think it's really useful here, especially for games. I think that there are many things in the D programming language that is very focused in like server stuff and low-level programming stuff, and I tried to get rid of those details for making the code simpler. So I don't think you need to use the Phobos library for programming a game. So having this control for having all those files here, it's a lot better than using standard, since you not need to implement the standard library again if you need to like use a WebAssembly, like needing the C runtime stuff like stdio and those kind of things. And returning here to the WASM for the build selector stuff, I have this version, which is Carol's allocation 2. Basically, a thing I have discussed with Adam all it does is like just don't care about who's owning the memory, so you don't will really think about deallocating stuff, especially for modern computers, as the game engine itself doesn't keep allocating memory in all loops. You won't run any kind of memory problems. And this is very simple when you look at it, because there isn't much when you think about compiling to WebAssembly here. It's basically only missing the runtime itself, so it's pretty simple. You only need like this flag here, which is the compiler for WebAssembly itself. And this is a thing I'm using from Sebastian Cope, which generates the source map so you can get debugging stuff in real time for WebAssembly. And here I'm just saying like you can run the development server. So you can just go to this folder, which is build and WebAssembly here. And here you can just run dub. I haven't implemented yet the thing for starting the server from the build selector tool, because you need some kind of permission for allowing a program to run two instances of itself. Then here I have started the development server. And here you can see we are running the game 2 that we have just tested, which currently has a bug right now. I have been changing some kind of API lately that basically I was using like floating variables for the colors, for the like drawing quads and lines. And I have like just done a new update on that, which I can just send an integer, which will be converted to 4 floats when running on it. So it can save quite a lot of memory for each vertex. But going back, you can see it's the same process here for running this game here and running a new project too. We can just select the other game here and build again for the WebAssembly stuff. It will do basically the same thing I have been saying, and you can just update here. And we got the other game running here too. You having this kind of control when compiling, like I have decided that just using dub or just using scripts are simply not enough. I think having this approach where you have total control in the build process is really a lot better for the long run. And for the Android stuff, it's a little more complicated because we have been having some new bugs that we can't run an NDK which is greater than 21 here. And this is something that was saved in my system. And Adam has done a stuff for setting this with, I think was build Android stuff from dub scripts. But I have thought about that a little more, and I have concluded that by using the same tool I have developed for the WebAssembly stuff, I could do for Android too. So here I'm doing exactly the same thing here on the deflex stuff. If you just search here, yeah, you can see that I'm basically using this thing here. I also save the Android NDK path, as you can see in my old LDCconf here. And those files are basically automatically downloaded for you when you're trying to build for Android. Like you can see here, it will prompt a lot of things because you need to download the Android static libraries for compiling. You also need to download Java stuff. Uh, oh my god, it didn't found here. Okay, so basically, I think I can set this up because, as I said before, I was using another approach for that. I was like depending on the system environment variables here. As you can see, I got Android NDK home here on HipremeEngine too. So this approach is pretty bad. It's why a lot of people use Docker. I thought like this is not really nice to use. And this thing, I think. Uh, Let me take a look here. I love presentations. Do you guys have any questions while I'm looking at this?
So your build system is not dub, but it's calling dub, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It uses dub from the installed LGC we have done right here in this initial step.
Okay. And is it calling dub as an executable, or is it using dub as a library?
It's calling dub as an executable. It's a lot easier doing like that. You can see like here, wait dub is a function, get dub run command, and you can see basically I get the dub from the LGC path here. So I'm guaranteeing I'm not executing dub from your system thing. It's better this way for making the process a lot simpler. This way I don't need to like keep thinking about what version are you using. I think there was like 3 to 4 people which tried run my engine, and like always their version didn't match the expected version for my engine. So I think my project is big enough for finally forcing a version to you. I think it's better like this way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious if you had considered using dub as a library instead. It might be, I don't know if that
It's
would.
too complex for the project, the problems trying to fix.
And the other option is to just forget dub and
Yeah.
do all the other stuff you need to do. It's something that a lot of people have looked at in terms of, what could we do that replaces dub? We have the repository that can still be used.
So on the dub stuff, I think usually it's pretty slow when comparing to just executing the the commands for building. I think dub still has some great stuff in there, like I said on the deflags and stuff. And the deflags can be really great. Like it's just pretty cool to being able to just put this and getting all the dependencies there and downloaded. As you can see, my
Yeah.
engine is not built only on itself. For most of it is.
I
You
I
can
think I think it's really cool how you have that like terminal selector to say, okay, what do you want to build, and that's super. I think that would be really great for people who aren't looking to,
yeah, yeah.
fiddle
Basically,
around with build
compiling
systems.
is not productive. It's like learning the build tools. You're not doing anything, and you can't like just lose 2 to 3 weeks trying to build for Android. Right here, what happened was I was trying to take the Android SDK home from because my system is basically already have some environment variables, so it was avoiding to install the Android SDK. I think it should work now. I only changes here for taking the SDK with it. If we have the NDK, we should have the SDK thing. And you can see it's just building to, like, when I designed this program, I just thought firstly, like, what do I need to build to a program? And I have reached this thing here, which is just pretty bad. It's like just so many scripts here, and they are only shell stuff, batch stuff. They're not portable. They take a lot of space here. My engine, you can see, it's already pretty bloated with files. There have just so many files here, and was driving me crazy. And like you needing to get the right script here, taking everything like you can see here. We have the environment variables. These are like unnecessary problems for building stuff. So I thought like, why not just do a tool which can just make everything a lot simpler. Like I can basically delete 90% of that and things continue running finally. And this problem here you find in my script was basically something I have even sent an issue request on Dub, which is saying here that my line is too long, and this is a big problem on Windows. Like it works pretty fine on the Linux and Mac OS, but on Windows I'm still getting this thing which I have no idea on how to fix right now. But I'm going to show that I can like basically install the Android SDK stuff without needing to have it pre-installed in my system. Actually, I don't think I can really show now because my engine always check for Android in this specific path because this is where Android Studio installs its SDK. So I don't think it can fix it. I can show it auto-installing right now unless I change my system. On this thing, I would like to ask anyone which is using Linux right now if you could test this tool. I have been using a continuous integration tool I have recently implemented on my engine here on the workflows. This is how I'm using to distribute my build selector without anyone needing the deprogramming language or the thing for every system right now. So this thing will always try to install your thing here. So it would be pretty nice if anyone could test this too. Well, my float to string is broken, and you can just send me a test later on which thing it broke. I think I can't increase my text. This is scaled from.
It's kind of late now, but that's okay.
Yeah. There isn't really much to read here. It's like just understanding the selector tool, which is.
I'm just hoping when I post the video, you can read it. It looks really, really cool. I like it. I think you should. I really think you should work with some of the people who work on Dub and, like give them some feedback of like work on Dub and just build systems in general because that's one place where D is just kind of horrendous. Like the Dub
hazy.
Yeah, the downloading part is great. You know, the dependency is it's okay, but I mean, you know, that can always be worked on. But man, it's just there's a lot of complaints about Dub all the time, and I think if you look in the repository, there's like 400 issues or something that nobody's looking at.
Yeah. So, as I said before, one of the main complaints from Dub is its compilation speed. And from my research here, I have done an amazing refactor on the building stuff here. And I think one module I had to redo it was renderer. I have, I don't remember actually where is the stuff. Here you can see I'm using import paths here instead of using dependencies because then Dub won't try to check every module here. So you can basically say, oh, well, this is always up to date. And this has been working really well for me. It started compiling like 2.5 times faster when comparing to just putting the dependencies here. I think this was like something that really changes how fast my engine built because I'm not even using DMD anymore after that. And when you have a system like that, well, where you separate for like every stuff you're using in your project, you can get like pretty faster compilation time. No, the is really cool. Like I have started to appreciate what it does after some time of like trying to get things running. Like there's this shared library stuff has like so many hidden problems that Dub solves to you when you don't even know what it's really doing. This is something I find really great for Dub. Have you guys tried testing this? Yeah, so the shared library stuff is like required for my Android stuff because they are oh yes, this I think it's pretty interesting for anyone trying Android. Actually, we can see here that we have an Android Studio project, and we can see that basically all it does is having this HipremeEngine.java. Here you can see it loads the HipremeEngine.so. I think this is the main usage for my engine besides using the hot reloading stuff. Let me try it again here. I'm using the new project tree. You can see here, we are using like shared library stuff, and this is pretty nice to have because there are some files you need to load in runtime, and those files can be saved in your cache here. So there's there's a lot of gains in doing this. So I don't think shared library stuff should really be avoided at all. You can see here I have just recompiled the game in runtime. I think this is pretty cool stuff. I really like having this feature here because I think it can greatly increase the productivity. It's pretty bad when you have compilation errors, but I think most of the time it's pretty nice to have. I find it really cool because you can see it builds really fast when you're trying to use. So I think we need to try to use what D brings to us. Most of the time, as I said before, I'm not using any kind of exception in my engine besides like using it for debugging stuff, especially when you have threads. When a thread dies, I think it throws it is currently throwing a thing here. I think it's concurrency stuff throw. It's throwing an error right now, they are all commented because I think I was testing on PS Vita a time before, but like it's oh yeah, it's here. When something throws here, because I can't control if you're coding it's going to throw or not, and executes this only in exception stuff just for signalizing that your thread has died. It's like the only usage in the entire engine of try catch throw stuff. So I think this is a thing that's not really necessary for building a game. So I tend to avoid what it's not really good. So do you guys have any questions?
Feel free to use your microphones, guys.
I arrived late, so I might you might have already answered this, but like, what was the hardest thing to support in your engine? I mean, I guess PS Vita, right? Like, what gave you the most trouble?
Yeah, so what I have done for supporting PS Vita was basically it's a incremental work over the WebAssembly stuff Adam has done. Like you can see here, there's a bunch of things that I have implemented by like from copying things from the D runtime and then stripping it off. And you can see here, I have PS Vita and custom runtime test. And what it does is basically I try to get the WebAssembly runtime I have done and try to run this custom runtime thing in the how do I say in Windows. So I could like just I could simulate the memory allocation stuff here. Like you can see it's the version use PSV mem, and you can see I have done this. So when I had problems with that was like I tried reducing always my things here. So many problems related to memory allocation because it works a little bit different. Like when you free some memory on PS Vita, it also gets zeroed, so you can't reuse this memory. So there was plenty of bugs related to that, and it was really hard to track those down because I don't like allocate a lot of memory explicitly in my engine. I have started doing this. You can see GC.3 like 12 results, 2 are commented here.
Hey, Hipreme,
So,
can you just like control plus your screen just a little bit, because I think Faberno can't.
Is it better now?
Yeah, probably.
Yep.
You can see I don't like do a lot of explicitly the allocation. I tend to do this only on the heaviest stuff, like here I'm deallocating shader source because it's not really necessary here. And this is like I don't use it at all, the allocation, because those things aren't really heavy in most of the time. And even on PS Vita, which has only 500 MB for RAM, it's pretty fine. I think my engine's taking like, you can see here how much memory it's taking. 70 MB. And this is, you can think like, oh, it's a lot, but it stores memory for the sprite batch thing. So
no, it's not bad. Like for example, if you're using STL, you will be using 60 megabytes no matter what, just from using STL.
Wow.
So So it is almost 10 times already less memory than you would use in STL.
Yeah, and my memory doesn't allocate any more than that because it all stays in the cache here. So it's like the minimal requirement for anything. Then you'll be able to use it really simply. But I think that was the hardest part, like supporting those systems is really different. You can see there's a make file here for the Vita stuff. You can see this is pretty ugly here. It's the same approach I have done for the Mac OS because it was just simpler to use static libraries than trying to get shared libraries running somehow. I just explicitly define all the libraries I'm using here. Then I copy all of them here in this libs folder. Then things just work, I think. Yeah, like each of those platforms I have been doing this. I think I have took like 1 month and a half to get support for them, but like there's a lot of undocumented stuff on the D side and those platform sites. So like a good thing of having a tool like this is that things are now basically code documented. Any more questions? Let's see. Yeah, Vira has a dynamic loader. People have done some work, but this is very recent, and the static library stuff was hard enough so I tend to keep things more simple. I don't overcomplicate stuff from the start. I tend to just do the basics, get the fundamentals working really nicely before trying to get things more complex in the system. I don't think web GPU is a thing I'm thinking right now because it's really recent. Like there isn't a lot of documentation. Even Metal, it's a lot older than web GPU, and it was hard enough. Like I needed some specialized people in Metal helping me deal with some problems on it. The Metal shaders have actually a more recent approach too in my engine. You can see here. There's a little bit of difference on how I have done for them. I have created an external file for the Metal shaders here. So there's a lot of things I'm still thinking about supporting multi GPU things, because you can see here this is the bitmap text.metal. This is for the GL stuff. I basically need to think about those variables names, and just Control C and Control V here to guarantee everything is working. This process is a lot manual.
Have you considered generating that? Like having one source that you generate both from? Because you can generate decode and you can generate a file.
I was thinking about using I think how it was called again, the dparse tool, because if you can see here, this code is not really complex here. It's like really simple. So it's like getting the OP binary correctly and making it run. Because I think if I didn't have high-level shading language included here. You can see a D3D shader here. It's the only different here because instead of multiplying, use this function with multiply here, and the other is a little bit different. It's really ugly too when you're trying to use things like that. Like it becomes really confusing. But I think it's possible to implement on this side source code for generating shader for all those three. I'm studying about using to the it was the Chronos thing on the generic shader. I don't remember right now its name. I think no, it wasn't risky. I'm thinking about more robust solutions on those shader converters. There's a no one for the K framework on Haxi programming language, which is called Pink. The K developer have done something like a Hipreme renderer stuff here, and he also done the stuff for creating generic shaders. I think it's pretty cool, and it's a project I'm willing to study a little bit of time to understand how could I make mine a little better. I think this, and you can see here from the number of commits, it's not something really simple to do. So I'm trying to avoid this right now, especially because you can get away for 2D games with simply 3 shaders at most for most kind of games anyway. So it's not a real priority now. Yeah, the parser stuff would be the shader parser thing. I don't think mine would take like 4K commits for getting done. I think something like 25, I could at least get something working.
I just want to say I think this is a really cool project. I'm actually I'm gonna try this again. I know I couldn't get it to working before, but I'm gonna try this again because seeing that is like I don't know, just being able to make code changes and have them automatically compile in and work is pretty fascinating. I think as far as my class, I don't know if I could get them up and running with this, but that would be a cool thing to just have them be able to write decode and have it recompile and affect their games would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, the hot reloading stuff I have only implemented for Windows and Linux. On the macOS stuff, things are a little more different because I'm using Xcode especially. I didn't want to really bother with a lot of those stuff, so I haven't thought about macOS as a first citizen platform because I was thinking a lot more on people developing on Windows and Linux. Unless someone was really wanting this thing, I would like take it like the how I'm approaching macOS right now is like building a game for iPhone. It's the main reason I got the macOS support for the first reason.
Yeah.
And which is why I have started developing the external Objective-C, but it's so hard sometimes that I need to work on other stuff so I get something done at all.
Yeah, I hear you.
but it's working really nicely for shared libraries and dynamic libraries. It's only on macOS, which is really different. I don't. It has been a little bit of time since I have tested for Universal Windows Platform. I think I'm gonna test here since. Okay, here.
I've got to go, right now. But I wanted to say it was a wonderful presentation, and I really appreciate the very practical work you're doing to make D a lot more of an "it just works" kind of a language. So congratulations, very 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 good work, and I hope you have all kinds of success in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been untested for quite some time. I think it won't work really out of the box right now. Well, this is pretty interesting.
All right, I think I'm going to stop the video recording unless anyone else has any pertinent questions. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to show us this. And I, too, echo Bruce's comments. I think this is going to be pretty interesting and pretty important for the D community in the future. So thank you.
Thanks. I'm gonna stop recording here too.